Hello, all of you beautiful sovereign beings of light. Welcome to the Illuminators. This is a show that I've had in concept for about the last 6 months, and this is the inaugural episode. And so I've had this idea for a while of having a show where I represent the divine feminine, and there's a man who represents the divine masculine. And I've been wanting and waiting for the ideal masculine to come along to represent that. So I met Ismael Perez several months ago, and fortunately he lives in my neighborhood, not far away, and we met in person, and that was our first meeting. And I got the impression that he is the one I've been waiting for, not necessarily that way, but he is the one who is filling in the role of the divine masculine in this Illuminator show I was given insight into. And so today he's going to be joining me, and we are going to be having our first show together, hopefully the first of many. And we'll talk about whatever spirit brings through. I always set the intentions before I go on camera that what comes through me and through my guest, my co-host in this particular case, is not my show. This is our show. And Ismael is my co-host. He's not my guest. Now, whatever comes through both of us is what is best for all concerned, is what is best for the audience and for all life on Earth. And it's always the intentions that I set before I get on camera, knowing that what I'm here to do is to help serve humanity as a messenger of love and light and truth, and what's possible for the divine human at this time on Earth and moving forward. And today I am bringing Ismael in for our first time. We'll see how it goes, and if our energies are cohesive and how well this conversation goes. And hopefully it is the first of many in this new Illuminator show. Now, there might be times that he's not available. I bring in another divine masculine to play that role. There might be times I'm not available and he brings in a divine feminine to play that role opposite of him. This is beautiful, harmonious, divine masculine, divine feminine in one space where together we talk about the hot topics and the issues at hand, and bring more love and more light and more understanding into those, so that all of you who are watching this show now and in the future can feel the love and the resonance of the divine as it is lifted up and raised up in the human experience and the human consciousness, as humanity re-becomes what it was always meant to be. So now I'll bring in Ismael, and we'll see what flows through both of us. Hi, Ismael. It's so great to have you here and to see you again.
Likewise, Victoria.
Yeah. And I hope this works out for us because, as you know, as I've mentioned to you a couple of times since we met, is that we're planning on, I had this idea for this Illuminators show, and I didn't know who the masculine was who would fit that role. And I've been seeing that how important it is to have this masculine feminine balance in all things and everything we do. And the planet's been out of balance for so incredibly long. And that we've been resurrecting the divine feminine for quite a while. I actually own the rights to the domain Resurrecting the Divine Feminine, because I will be making a movie about what this is and what this process has been, what we've been moving through. And so I've had this idea for the Illuminators for a while. And when I met you, you and I had the opportunity to meet in person, which is pretty amazing that we both live in the same little community. Talk about divine alignment, right? And so when I met you, I thought, wow, maybe Ismael is the one I've been waiting for to get this show off the ground. And which is why I know I've invited you to be a part of the show. So today is the first episode. We'll see how it goes and how our energies work together. And my feeling is it's going to be a really beautiful experience. So it's really interesting. When I presented this idea to you, it was to talk about the solar flash. That's the hot topic right now. And what's really interesting is the last couple of days, I've gotten more insight about it with regard to what's happening on the planet energetically around Halloween. I posted about this yesterday because something big, it feels like, is going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. And I don't usually get those feelings. My team does not give me dates. So it's really interesting that I've been given all these messages around Halloween. So there's that. What came in this morning, actually woke me up in the middle of the night, is this, the Christmas song, Sing Choir of Angels. Like, well, that's a strange song. So my team speaks to me through song. That's how they get my attention. And then I always have to ask what the song was about. Mm-hmm. And so what I was being shown is that there are all these people that are expecting Jesus to return. Mm-hmm. He made it very clear to me he's not returning in the cloud of smoke and all that, right? The angelic thing. But what came in this morning is that it's the feminine. Mother Mary might actually be the one that returns, not Jesus. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting. And when I checked in with that, and I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, because there's a surprise event. And yesterday morning, I tuned in. I asked with Mother, Father, Creator. I communicate directly with Source. And what they said to me is, if they tell me what it is, then it won't be a surprise. So Team Light, the Alliance, as we call them, the Alliance of Light, they told me about a year ago to no longer use the term Galactic Federation because there was a false federation that also uses that same name. So they asked me to start using the term Alliance. And which is one of the things that I noticed with you. It's like, you got the message too. Mm-hmm. So we're working with this Alliance of Light that is both the guardians of the galaxy, if you will. And this Alliance of Light also includes Mother Earth.
Absolutely.
Part of the team. Mm-hmm. So I get messages from her sometimes too, and she said she's got something planned. Like there's something big that's coming, and they won't tell anybody what it is. It's really interesting. And it feels like there's something really big and scary. And then this divine flash comes in with a rescue plan, in a sense, to kind of help us start cleaning up the mess. So ultimately, this is about the rebalancing of the masculine and the feminine. Mm-hmm. And so what is your thought, your input on this? What have you seen about this?
Well, I definitely agree that it is a recalibration of the suppressed feminine that has been suppressed for thousands and thousands of years. And the only people that kept that intact and preserved the balance of the feminine and masculine were the Gnostics, were the Essenes, were the Cathars, if you want to go, Europe in the medieval times, the Cathars, the Templars, which derive their information from the Essenes, or rather they are the reorganized Essenes. But technically, it's also the Druids, the ancient Celts, the Druids, the original Europeans, the spiritual cultures that flourished undetected by the, beast system of the Roman Empire. And so what we're seeing right now is a huge return of the sacred divine feminine. So you're right. I think that instead of expecting some sort of a male Messiah, it's probably going to be some sort of a female. But it's not just one individual. I believe that it is the return of the divine feminine, the mother goddess, through all the women out there, all the high priestess, all the light warriors like yourself, and all the other women out there that are representing the divine feminine. I think it's not just going to be one person that is going to have that lofty title. Well, I am Mary Magdalene. Right. Mary Magdalene is resurrected through every single one of you females. Every single one of you females is the representation of Mary Magdalene. And in like manner, I believe that the return of Yeshua is also represented by all the divine masculines. So it's a matter of the divine masculine has been oppressed, and now, it seems like they're through their agenda, they're trying to feminize the divine masculine. They're trying to, promote this idea of a wounded divine masculine through people like that athlete that recently converted his sex to female. What's his name? Jenner. Jenner. He was on the Kardashian show. I forget his name, but he used to be like the Olympic.
Yeah, Bruce Jenner. He was a Olympian in the 1980s, I think. Yeah. Exactly.
So, through him and other people, they're really, it's also an attack on a divine masculine by, feminizing, by making it like the divine masculine has to be more feminine. And so to me, it's just like, it's the rise of the divine masculine, right? But it's also the return of the mother goddess through every single female out there that is a light warrior, a light worker. And, because I get a bunch of DMs from individual women all around the world claiming to be Mary Magdalene. And if everyone's claiming to be Mary Magdalene, it just makes no sense. It would be better sense that every single one of you ladies is the return Mary Magdalene. It's not just one individual. It's a collective. It's a collective. And that also applies to the return of a Messiah, some sort of a, avatar. Every culture knows him by different names. And I strongly believe that, it's all of us. It's not just one single person. It's going to be millions of us that are going to rise by integrating ourselves with our divine higher self. And in so doing, we're going to be portraying or what's demonstrating, what it's like to be the Christ, what it's like to be the divine Sophia. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a collective emergence of the divine Sophia through the feminine females. And then I see the rise of the masculine, of the return of the Christ through the male masculines, as this balance comes back into play. And this is something that the fallen patriarchy, the system of the beast, that was enacted by the first Antichrist, Constantine, has been suppressing for 2,000 years. And this also coincides with the rise of the ancient mystery school teachings, the paganism, the belief in animism, that everything has consciousness, right? Rocks, plants, animals, everything has a soul, which is something that has been also suppressed during the 2,000-year rule of the, beast system of the Catholic Church. And so everything is now recalibrating, you could say, and that's what we're going to be experiencing. It's not just one person, it's all of us. So it's also, regarding the Galactic Federation, you're right. The reason it's been compromised is because Enki compromised it. Enki returned about 2.5 years ago, and he did succeed in infiltrating the Federation. So there was a lot of defectors. Unfortunately, some of the Pleiadians betrayed us. Some of the Arcturians, the Andromedans, they fell for his bait. And so we are now dealing with the Alliance. Yeah, the Alliance are those that remained loyal to the light, to Michael, to the Emerald Order. And so that's the difference. The Alliance has always existed on an octave above the Galactic Federation, because the Galactic Federation has operated in harmonic density universe number 2, which consists of dimensions 4, 5, and 6. But then, the Galactic Alliance, or rather what has always been known as the Guardian Alliance, has been an alliance of members that operate from harmonic universe number 3, 4, and 5. And so I believe that it's important to distinguish the difference between the false light coming from a collective known as the Ashtar, and even the term Metatron. It's all part of the New Age false light. And I do agree that there is some sort of an infiltration, an agenda to hijack and control the fifth dimensional reality. And so in order, we have to be discernful. We have to be discernful because, when these galactics channel information to people, they are doing it in a way where they are posing as saviors, and that's the problem. When you begin to externalize your power and you give your power away to some commander, you better know that that's part of the false light. Now, if you're receiving information from your galactic higher self, and that's the difference between channeling from an imposter yourself, is empowering information that reminds you that you are the Christ, that you are the Sophia, that you are the God with, that you have to connect with the God within. And that is the difference between, the difference, I guess, transmissions that are coming in at this time. And so the last thing we need is for people in the New Age movement to put all their trust and faith in the Galactics, when in turn, the Galactics, most of them have been compromised. So it's not just, in a sense, it's up to us now.
Right. And it's really interesting because I've always communicated through my higher self. And when I do bring in a message, I'm actually in the spiritual situation room. I do go there sometimes too, but it's in the council chambers. And Yeshua has made it very clear that all true messages have to go through him. It's like they have to be approved by him. Mm-hmm. And if it's not approved by him, it could very well be a false message.
Exactly.
He's always right here with me, like checking in. Is this correct? Is this true? Because he is the master teacher for planet Earth. And so the messages have to be cleared through him. And that it's really interesting that I'll have to have another conversation with you about Metatron, because I have been shown some information about him in the last 24 hours. And there is the true Metatron, and then there is an entity that is disguising himself as Metatron.
That's right. Exactly. You're right. I've actually it took me about a few months to realize that, but I got the same message you did. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people are being swayed by the false Metatron.
And what's really interesting about Metatron, I told this very quickly because we're having this. Oh, and the divine feminine I was seeing was actually not Mary Magdalene; it was Mother Mary.
I agree.
What she was showing me this morning is that she is restoring the priesthood to the women, which is who it initially belonged to, which is the healing and the spiritual leadership that is inherently feminine. So that is being restored through the women and men. I think it's important to understand that women have both feminine and masculine aspects, and men have both feminine and masculine aspects. But as you were saying, that the true masculine, which is that masculine with the heart of love, has been downgraded, and the masculine, when it's in fear, becomes about compete, control, conquer. And that's the energy the masculine has been held in. And as the divine feminine is resurrected and restored, it allows the masculine to then feel safe, to be its true in its true power of love, which is about support, protect, and provide. So that beautiful masculine is being restored, of planning and strategizing and building and creating, and that's what's coming back for the masculine, and that incredibly loving, protective heart that the masculine has. And as the feminine is being resurrected, now she's being able to nurture and create and love with the heart of compassion that is the feminine. So there's going to be this beautiful marriage between the masculine and the feminine on the earth as we are restored to love, and both the masculine and feminine hearts can work in balance and harmony. And what I keep seeing as the masculine and the feminine are both being placed back up on the mantle, and it's the restoration of the vessel and the pyramid rather than the pyramid or the vessel. It's this beautiful marriage between the masculine and the feminine. For lack of a better word, it's not like they're going to go out and get married, but it's this reunification of co-creation with one above another. And so there's that. What I was being shown about Metatron is that he's actually a neutral observer. He is the scribe of God. So he is at both the dark meetings and the light meetings taken. He's the scribe. He writes all the records. He's the keeper of the records. He's the keeper of the scrolls. And so if someone sees him present in a dark meeting, it's because he's there. He's representing source. He's like the court reporter. Court reporter doesn't play for either side. And so that's the impression that I got from Metatron, is he's the keeper of the scrolls, but he doesn't actually play on the side of the dark. There is an entity, however, that's pretending to be him. And the same thing with Ashtar. There's a dark entity that's pretending to be Ashtar. And so it's really, really important that when people do their channeling, or their channeling's a fancy word, I call it love streaming. I can tell the difference. Streaming a message, it is pure love. So if people are bringing in a message that has any fear or judgment or anger or blame or any of that in it, it's not streaming through the divine. And I think it's really important for people to be able to recognize, as these messages come in, what's the resonance that's behind it. Because those who work on behalf of the dark, you can't feel that love. If the message comes in with this just overwhelming love for all life on earth, and really love for all creation, because even those who work on behalf of the dark are still part of source. Source doesn't hate anything, any aspect of itself.
I agree.
And so, and if people aren't doing the work to protect their fields and set very clear commands about who is and isn't allowed into their mind, it's really easy for infiltration to get in. And I think a lot of these people are being infiltrated with false messages and connecting into dark entities that are claiming that they are these beings of light.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's interesting that even some of those who were working for the Galactic Federation were so taken in by false light. That is how easy. That my team calls them the deceptors, the Decepticons. I know that's from Hollywood, but there are these beings who are so good at deceiving that even those who work on behalf of the light, if they're not really, really careful, can easily be deceived by this false light, the Lucifer, right?
Well, Enki is the great deceiver. He represents,
but it's still that same energy. It's darkness representing itself as light.
Exactly.
It is the Lord of what my team calls the dark overlord. So this dark energy can label itself, but pick a label. It's still that same dark entity that calls itself the Lord of Light or the Angel of Light, but it's really the Lord of False Light. It's that same false light that creates movie stars and sports stars and all that, right? It's like we know that lights are meant to be guides for humanity, yet so many have gotten sucked into this false light. So you see that for human beings, and I find it fascinating that there are also members of the Galactic Federation that got sucked into that as well. I wasn't aware of that. And I think many of them can be what my team calls rehabilitated. So there are many beings who are able to be rehabilitated, restored, reminded of who they really are. Mm-hmm. And there are some that simply can't be. And they will be disinvited from the game. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Now, the main reason I believe, and this is what the download I received, that some of these Federation commanders betrayed us, was because they had a glimpse of the future of what it would be like for us to use our dormant DNA, and they saw how powerful we become, and so they did it out of envy, because a lot of them depend on external technology to do the things that we are going to do when we activate our dormant DNA, and that is the reason. We're going to be a natural living technology. We're going to be able to shift from dimension to other dimensions, traverse the planes of reality, travel across the universes. We're going to be multi-universal with our own light body without any external means. And so because there's no other race out there that that exists within, you know, the fourth, fifth, or sixth dimension, because beings from the seventh and eighth dimension have that ability.
Right.
And so, you know, knowing that the Pleiadians are fifth dimensional, so the Arcturians are sixth dimensional, the Andromedans are some are fifth, some are sixth, but the whole point is that, you know, they saw a glimpse of what we would become, and they saw how advanced we became and how powerful we are in the future and how much we surpass them. And so they were sold on the idea that they could, by merging with technology, again, everything boils down, the core of all evil, transhumanism, totally Luciferian. They were sold on the idea that by merging with the tech, that they would also be able to do some of the things that we could. But to no comparison, I mean, you know, if we were to use 100% of our full power, we would be beyond anything that has ever existed, including archangels. Like, we would be like the new head honchos of the multiverse at 100%. But of course, you know, many of us are going to go up in increments. But even in increments, we're still going to be more powerful than any other species out there in the multiverse.
Right. Yeah, I refer to that as the divine human blueprint. And so what people need to understand is that when this divine human was created, is that Source took everything it had learned about all the creations it had created, and we, the Elohim, we actually work on behalf of Source. We are creators of worlds, and we created this divine human that uses everything Source had discovered and learned about every being that had existed before the divine human, and put it into this blueprint. And that the divine human, once we remember who we are, will be able to do and create miracles. And everything our minds can conceive, we can achieve. Everything our hearts can feel, we can create. It's that miraculous way of living, and as you said, of moving between dimensions and galaxies and universes with ease, while still in form, which is unheard of. Usually a source entity has to leave form in order to do that. Now, I know the Pleiadians do have the technology to be able to put there, and they actually sent me this message about a year ago, and I started asking about walk-ins, because many of the Pleiadians are going to be walking into human avatars. And I said, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, we basically put our bodies in a refrigerator, and then we leave the bodies there. As a soul, we teleport and we take in human form, and we'll be there to help human beings do what needs to be done to help clean up this earth landscape, and to teach us the technologies they use. And the same thing with the Arcturians. All this, the technologies they have access to, we have still yet to learn, because humanity is still a young species with regard to all of the other species that have been out there for millions and millions and millions of years. And because the human species is still quite young, we have a lot to learn. Rather, the younger souls have a lot to learn. Some of us, as you and I, are ancient souls, and we volunteered and were called to come here and help humanity move into this next phase of evolution.
I agree.
And so this divine human blueprint is going to be reactivated, and it will take a while for it to be fully restored, because the body itself needs to be elevated in order to receive all these new light codes that are coming in, which is why the ascension actually started 50 years ago. And I don't know if people are aware of that, but it did start in the 1960s. And that's when the love started coming back in, and it started changing the human experience. And that's also when the side of dark went on defense, because it realized that love was returning. And now it's We've seen what's happened. It's ramped up, and now we're at the final play. What I was being shown last night is we're the final play in the final overtime of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the ball is in the court, in our court, and they have no idea what that final play is. The light has planned.
Mm-hmm. It's a checkmate.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, and they know it's a checkmate.
Mm-hmm.
They're just playing their final cards, their final play, whatever that final play is. And what I was being shown this morning is they're going to be allowed to play it, which is the collapse of all systems, which is what their plan is. So they can rebuild the planet the way they want to. So the light is allowing this collapse of all systems to take place. And then the light will swoop in.
Yeah, exactly.
Recreate. And it's already been planned out, already know what it is. And so as things get potentially really dark over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, know that the side of light already has the plan in place. And that humanity will not fail or fall into the chasm of darkness.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So what does this solar flash look like for you? And it's interesting because what I was shown a couple of years ago, before I had even heard the term solar flash, what my team has shown me, it's interesting. So I have to share the message that came in last night, which I find fascinating, because I was asking, what is this surprise? Can you give me a little bit of it? Taste something. What it looked like was, what I was told was there was a movie called The Day Time Stood Still.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that's what will happen. There will be a moment when time stands still.
Yeah, it's called
Like,
0 point.
And however long that, it might feel like a flash for us, but however long it takes for time to stand still, for the work to be done that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm continually reminded of that movie yesterday. I don't know if you saw that movie.
I haven't.
It was just a sweet little movie. But my team shows me that movie fairly often because it's in that movie. There was a solar flash, and I didn't realize that until the last time I watched it like 3 times. There's a solar flash, and in that solar flash, humanity gets placed on the other timeline, on another timeline, not necessarily the one you and I are talking about, but Hollywood has to tell us the truth. And the solar flash comes and puts humanity on a different timeline. And that's what I've been shown over and over and over again, that that's what will happen. And most people won't even know that's what happened. They will just know that something is very different. And what happens is that that's when that third dimensional fear-based reality gets removed from the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all that's left is 4 and 5, and then, 6. I mean, I play around in 6 all the time because that's where the field of creation is. So that's what I've been shown.
Mm.
Does that resonate?
It does, because I've always known that there was going to be a bifurcation of worlds, not a literal split, physical split, but a vibrational split of frequencies where, you're going to have one world ascending, and in the twinkling of an eye, you're going to have all the people that are good, ascending with the earth. And then at the same time, there's going to be another planet prepared for those that didn't make the ascension. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a planet where, I guess, where they will continue their lessons and their karma, so that eventually, when that planet also ends its cycle, then they could also be ready for ascension, because ultimately it's no soul left behind.
Right.
So even those that don't make it in this time frame are going to have the opportunity to ascend in the next time frame. On a different planet, Earth-like planet, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was shown that back in 2019. I started seeing, I call it the 2 Earth split. So back in 2019, actually myself and a couple of other people, we started seeing the Earth, what looks like a cell dividing. So that it was like, well, we see these two worlds, and there's this like what a friend of mine was saying, it's like syrup between these two worlds. What is that? And that this is, if you imagine Earth as one, and that cell splits, so you have two identical planets. Both of those energetically have already been created. This other planet looks identical to Earth. And a lot of the dark beings on this planet have already been removed and taken there. And they're living out this reality on this Earth that looks identical to this one. This one is the one that will be ascending. So when people talk about New Earth, I've heard people say, oh, the spaceships are going to come and pick us up and take us someplace else. No, this is where the ascension takes place. The ones who are leaving are the ones who are going to the duplicate.
The duplicate Earth, yeah. Which is still going to exist in a third dimension.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting to grasp. Right now, they both still exist in this space. And that third dimension is just going to split off so that we will no longer experience that in our reality. Because I remember when this message first came in about, well, close to 2 years ago, I want to say, and I was asking, how is this going to look? How do these dimensions split off? How do they look? And the message that came in, again, because I communicate directly with Source, is that they would coexist for a while, and then eventually they would just completely separate, and that people would no longer be able to make that leap from 3D to 5D because these two realities would then be so far apart. And so when 4D converged with 3D in 2012, it made it possible for the masses to start moving out of that dark, dense 3D reality and into 4 and then into 5 without having to die to get into the fifth dimension, which is what people have had to do in the past. Is you have to physically leave your body to get into 5D, but because of this convergence that occurred in 2012, we can now move with more grace and ease, if you will, from that old reality and then into this 5, and 3 will just completely split off. It actually flatlined about a year ago, which means is that energetically it flatlined about a year ago, which means it's going to cease to exist here and continue existing in that third dimension. But those of us who choose then to move into 4 and 5D will no longer experience that third dimensional reality.
Yes, and I
it
do
won't even be present on this planet.
Exactly. And I believe that the divine flash, as you would call it now, will be the trigger point that is going to cause those two cells to split off.
Yeah. And then there will be no more jumping. That fourth dimensional bridge, as people call it, I call it a spiritual spiral. So it actually looks like this instead of like this. But that bridge will basically be cut off, and people can no longer make that walk onto the bridge. And all of us who woke up early, if you will, it's an easy way to put it, woke up early specifically so that we could reach our hand out to all of those who are ready to help them onto the bridge and make their way across. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, the visual I'm getting right now. I keep getting this chasm, right? That there's a big chasm or a canyon between 3D and 5D, and there's this bridge that currently exists, and it's invisible. It's an invisible bridge, and so people have to. It's like the leap of faith. If I step out, that the bridge will be there. Mm-hmm. And it is. It's very real. All of us who have been on it know it's not the. Oh, you're gonna love the visual I'm getting. It's like those the bridges that you see in the movies that are made of rope, the rope bridges. Mm-hmm. They're really unstable. That's what being in 4D feels like. It's unstable. Hang on to the rope, cross the bridge, And
makes sense, yeah.
And it's there, but what I'm seeing is that when these two worlds split, is that side of the bridge will be cut off, and no one else will be able then to grab onto that bridge. And that old world will completely separate off. And so, yes, so this divine flash light event is what will create that separation.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? I love the visuals I get because I'm getting like the birth, right? When new life is birthed into the light and that umbilical cord gets cut, the baby can't go back in. It's that same kind of thing. We will not be able to go back in. Once we're birthed into light, we won't be able to go back into that dark place. And it's that same kind of thing with these realities separating off, that once humanity has made that cut, that old reality is going someplace else. And those who choose to remain in the loving, as I call it, those who choose to remain in loving will continue then through that spiritual process of growing the heart and creating this new love-based, heart-based reality that so many of us been talking about for so many years. And it's really amazing to see all of the constructs being put into place to make that happen now in our physical reality. I get really fun visuals, as you can see.
Awesome. Good visuals. They make perfect sense. They give us like a illustration of what it's like when you have visuals.
Yeah. It's really interesting because when I was communicating with Source yesterday, and I always get shown these amazing visuals, and they said the reason that they communicate through that is because it's a really easy way for human beings to be able to grasp what it is we're talking about, because we can use words.
Mm-hmm.
When we use the words and the visuals, it's easier for human beings to grasp what it is we're talking about. So my team uses metaphors a lot. And what's really interesting is that Yeshua has explained to me this is the reason that he taught the way he did, because he always taught in stories and metaphors as well, because human beings best through metaphors that they can understand. So he taught in a way that human beings could understand what he was teaching within their own present understanding. And
I agree. Yeah.
I call it grounded spirituality.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun to be able to see these things in a way that we can explain it to people so they don't so that it's not so confusing, because all of this what we see and what we experience after we have our awakening can be beyond the grasp of the human mind until the human mind evolves enough to be able to grasp it, which is actually what's happening now, is that we are waking up really fast and spiraling up in our ability to grasp what humanity's never been able to grasp before. And it's because the divine human is growing up.
We're hatching.
Yeah.
We are hatching.
Moving from kindergarten to first grade. So, are you out of time? I know you said you didn't have a lot of time this morning.
Yeah, I have like 2 minutes left.
Okay. Well, it's been so amazing to connect with you again this morning. This has been a great conversation.
Very enlightening.
I hope that this helps to set a lot of the audience at ease. I know a lot of people are really concerned, afraid right now with what's happening on the planet, and that it is going to look quite dark. I was shown it could be very dark for a couple of weeks, and to know that at the end of that darkness comes this beautiful ray of light. And it's not going to look like it's brighter, more sunlight than usual. This light is undetectable to the human eye, but the body and the spirit can sense it. And it will change the landscape of Earth. And we'll then be given the ability to recreate this Earth the way the heart wants it to be created.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
It is. I'm excited.
It is. It's very exciting. Well, it's so good to see you. So good to have you here. And I look forward to the next time. We'll illuminate something else the next time we get together.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you all enjoyed that episode, that first of hopefully many episodes with Ismael and I as the Illuminators for all life on Earth. Of course, we're not the only ones who are illuminating the love within the fear and the light within the darkness as we bring more light to the planet and help to illuminate what is possible for humanity. That was a great discussion on so many things. I wasn't quite sure where the conversation would go, and I'm so pleased with all the different things we talked about, because we are moving into an entirely new reality for humanity that might begin within the next couple of days. I've gotten some really interesting messages about Halloween and that the old fear-based patriarchies are now going to start crumbling, and that the new masculine, divine masculine, will be restored, and that this beautiful divine feminine will also be restored, so that we work together in this beautiful harmony, not patriarchy, not matriarchy, but this beautiful new existence where the pendulum of both sides have come to rest in the yin yang, in the pyramid and the vessel, both masculine and feminine, on the mantle, where we honor, love, and respect each other and work together to create a beautiful new world. And that is now what is happening on our planet. As you start to see the patriarchies, the patriarchal systems, all of them are going to start collapsing, imploding. And this implosion is being allowed so that we can reconstruct, Earth. My mouth is having a hard time making words this morning. That's really interesting. So that is the message for today from both of us. I hope you enjoyed this first of many episodes of The Illuminators. And as always, I guess I need to come up with a new closing for this show, is always remember that the love works through us. We are the divine intervention we seek. The divine works through all of us, as the divine masculine and the divine feminine, through each of us. We are the light, and the way is being shown through us. We are the divine intervention we seek. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And together we are creating an entirely new world of love, peace, harmony, prosperity, and beauty for all life on Earth. Be at peace and know that this is so, and so it is.